We are live once again on Proline TV for another Pigskin Friday edition as we take a look at Longshots. That's right. We have not even entered August yet, but that's why it's a good time to take a look at Longshots in case those odds start to drop before the season, or more importantly, just in case there are some injuries during training camp, preseason, or those first few weeks of the season. And maybe you get those heavy favorites and they won't be favorites any longer if their star quarterback goes down. So who might be a good long shot to pick up where those heavy favorites leave off? We're going to get into that and much more here on this week's edition. Jim Feist joining me as always. How's it going, Jim?
Pretty good. Temperature's a little bit down. We're not at 116. We're now at 98. So we have a cold spell going on.
Okay, very nice. I like that. Okay, let's start off with, I just did an interview earlier today with RJ Ochoa. He is the editor-in-chief of Blogging the Boys and bloggingtheboys.com. Does a great job. Very lucky to have him as our top Cowboy analyst. And so I had a long interview with him. You can check it out here on the site. But part of the interview, like all the interviews I do towards the end, I'll ask these guys what they think about week one, what do they think about win totals and anything else related to odds, picks, and things like that. So I thought this was a really interesting give and take. I know the Cowboys are one of those teams that there's still a little bit of a mystery there. They let McCarthy go after 3 straight 12-win seasons. They had one bad year when Dak Prescott went down. Boom, Mike McCarthy's gone. Enter Brian Schottenheimer. And there's a lot of people who really aren't very sure what to expect from the Cowboys. So I thought this was a really interesting take. So I want to go ahead and start us off with this because, Jim, before actually I started off with this, just give me a 1 minute or less analysis on where you stand currently with the Cowboys. And of course, knowing that their over-under line, I believe is what, 8.5 or something?
I don't have it in front of me, the total.
Yeah, let me see. They're over-under right now. Let's see. Happens to be 7.5 minus 160 or 8.5 plus 120. So what is your feeling? And of course, we've had these shows before, and Jim has given his take before on several other shows. But just for this setup, in case you don't know, Jim, what do you think about the Cowboys?
Well, you look at the division, you know the Eagles are the best team if they're healthy and if they're come with the same motivation they played last year with their offensive and defensive line. They've done it. They've been there. The Giants are a little bit of a mess. We got the older quarterback coming in there, and we got Daboll maybe he's definitely on a hot seat. You got the Commanders who had a great year last year, but they got some benefit at the end where they ended up playing the Lions, where they had a lot of injuries on the defense, made them look a little bit better than maybe they are. We also could have some regression with them because Daniels, young quarterbacks, sometimes they fall off in the second year. And then, of course, you got the Cowboys. Dak Prescott 2 years ago had 36 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. Their offense could be prolific. They could be. I mean, they could put up a ton of points. The question is going to be, you got a head coach that we have no idea how is he's going to be able to manage this team. McCarthy's gone. He wasn't a terrible coach, but now we have a real mystery going on with this coach. And the defense, will the defense be able to hold up? I think they're going to put up a lot of points. I would say the Cowboys are going to be one of the highest scoring teams in football. The question is their defense. And
so what about the win total line?
Well, considering the fact, I would have to say over 7.5 is definite. Over 8.5.
At minus 160?
Pardon
at
me?
Minus 160 still?
If it's minus 160, I think 7.5 is just too low. I think
8.5 plus 120.
Over 8.5 plus 120. Yeah, I think so. I think 9 and 9 is 9-8 is a good season for this team.
All right.
Very, very possible season for this team.
Let's
and if there's, you got to remember too, it's only July 18th. Injuries happen.
Oh yeah.
And if the injuries happen to the teams that are above you or competitive with you, that all of a sudden makes your season a little bit better. If they happen to you, it's not so. It's the opposite.
Okay, let's go ahead and check out the clip now.
The Cowboys are not winning the Super Bowl. That's not my point, but they are not that team. They are not 7-point underdogs against the Eagles. Dak Prescott has more often than not succeeded against the Eagles, and I trust that to be the case here. I like the Cowboys schedule early. I mean, obviously, things happen, but after that game, they come home and host the New York Giants.
By the way, Jim, just let me know when you want me to pause it if you have a comment.
And
okay.
Go to Chicago and play the Bears. Like I certainly envision a world where they're off to a 2-0 start, potentially, maybe get to 3-0, depending on how Chicago is, Ben Johnson, how long all that kind of takes to click for them. But I don't mean this word as some sort of homer. I think this line is disrespectful. The same way, like, most books have the Cowboys over under for win totals at 7.5. That's just absurd to me. Like, again, not like how dare you.
I happen to agree that number is too low. I definitely think you got to go over 8.5. I mean, it's that's just too low. It's this they have too many quality pieces on the offensive side of the ball to not put a lot of pressure on other teams to keep up with them scoring wise. The question is going to be, for me, two questions. I don't know anything about this coach in this position. And secondly, I'm not sure how the defense is going to hold up against a lot of pressure.
All right. Well, I did ask him about the defense, so let's continue.
Blah, blah, blah. They do not win fewer than 8 games, not only under Dak Prescott, but ever. I used to say this stat all the time, that Tony Romo never played a game where he was mathematically eliminated from playoff contention. And that's true. Like you can look it up. And some of that is he got hurt at the right time for that stat to be true. But that never happened. They're always a team that is in the thick of it. Even last year, they won 7 games with chaos, with the house being on fire and with anacondas, along the staircase, and Bowser, banging on the door. Like, I mean, they still won 7 games. So you mean to tell me that they're not going to, go north of 7.5 this year? I think that's my favorite bet. If you are doing that for the Cowboys, it's absurd to me. It has moved a little bit over the offseason, but
because right now it's at -160. So they're telling you that they're hoping that you'll go with the 8.5. Take the 120.
I'd take over 8.5 even, because
sounds like it to me. Yeah.
I don't put you in this box, obviously, but nationally, this is not a woe are the Cowboys type thing, but they're such a meme that, like, they don't get evaluated and discussed objectively without somebody screaming and saying, "Oh, they haven't won the Super Bowl," and blah. Like, yeah, like if you want to hate on this team, like, get in line behind me. Like, I have a long list, and I'll give you lots of material to work with, but the idea that they're you used the word mediocre earlier. And not to like strongly disagree. Sure. They haven't been mediocre. They've been really good. They've just had their worst moments on the worst possible days. But as far as regular season success, they are near the very top of the NFL. And people can laugh at that and roll their eyes. And again, I'm right there with you. But if we're talking about putting your money down, they are definitely a team. I would even take over 9.5 at this point. Like, they are in an NFL world with 17 games. I mean, that's a little bit riskier, obviously, but the 8.5 is easy money in my mind.
Wow. And again, that's if the team stays healthy.
Sure. Obviously, not accounting for any disaster. Right. Yeah.
That makes sense. Okay. That's excellent to know. It's why we have you on, RJ. That's huge. Of course, I like to take the little snippets too, like this little 4-minute segment. I'm going to definitely pump that out at some point, just to let everybody know that do you have some sort of prediction? If I know it's early, but sometimes it's late. I know a lot of people like to make predictions like in April. So do you have like some sort of prediction on what you think the Cowboys are going to do this season if everything is equal and healthy and all that?
I think they're a playoff team. Is this the year that an NFC East champion finally repeats. I don't know. Obviously, if a team was going to do it, it's going to be these Eagles, right? They're that good. But again, multiple things can be doing that the Eagles can be one of the best teams in the NFL, and that the Cowboys play them well.
Sure.
So I don't, I don't envision a world where, they're a team that gives the Cowboys fits. If all is well, if all is healthy, I certainly think they're winning somewhere between 10 and 11 games. Whether or not that's good enough for the division obviously remains to be seen, but in all likelihood is good enough for a playoff spot. And then I think, it all depends on the draw for this team, right? If, they've had the misfortune, as we talked about, the last time they lost to San Francisco, as an example, and I don't say this to weaken anything the Eagles have done, that same divisional weekend, the Eagles played the Daniel Jones-led Giants, to get to the NFC Championship game. And then in the NFC Championship game, saw Brock Purdy, and every quarterback on the Niners roster get hurt and just put things on cruise control to get to the Super Bowl. I promise this is not in the poor Cowboys way, but like they just haven't caught that luck. You know what I mean? They haven't caught that luck on a playoff path where, and you hate to put it that way, you never want to see players get hurt, but they've never drawn that team that wasn't supposed to be there and been lucky to get them in the divisional round. They've just, they've always spun the wheel and landed on, the big bad wolf. You know what I mean? Every time that they're in a serious moment, and they just haven't been good enough. And that's on them fully and totally. They should have been. But
you're paying for the 90s, man. That's what you're paying for.
Right.
It's coming back.
So like if we forecast a world where, I don't know, the Panthers win the NFC South and then, they win a wild card game and that's the team who
that's
Dallas
their
gets.
team.
Yeah. Like that, I think if that kind of road lines up for them, anything's possible because it's possible for any team. But I think they're one of those teams. Like they're a 10 to 11 win team that they have the most important boxes checked at quarterback, wide receiver, pass rusher. Clearly, Brian Schottenheimer is the biggest question mark.
Yeah.
I did a video a few weeks ago with a friend of mine and just kind of said, what's the thing that we're not seeing right now that we might look back in a month and be like, holy crap, like that was right in our face. Like, we really should have, known that this was going to get bad. And we just didn't want to see it. And he was like, well, like Brian Schottenheimer could suck. Like, this could be really bad.
Yeah.
This could be exactly what we thought it was for a month before he started to ooh and ah us in his press conferences. And so obviously if things go that way, it goes south, but that has not really happened to this team in 30 years. For all the failures that, again, you want to put on their head, and you should, I will lay them out for you. They are not a team that bottoms out. They're not a flat out embarrassment. They embarrass themselves in more ways than we can conceive, but they do not fail in just dramatic football fashion like they did last year. And a lot of these people, a lot of national heads, a lot of sports books, they say like, oh, look, this team sucked last year. Yeah, they did. And I will be the first to tell you that. But they also did quite literally nothing in the offseason. And they sent their head coach into a contract year. And they played the contract drama with their quarterback and their wide receiver. And their owner was on the radio fighting with local hosts, and whatnot. Like, they made it as toxic of a year as possible for all parties involved and still won 7 games. So I like their odds in a general sense, but because it hasn't happened in 30 years, I'm certainly not going to predict them doing the Super Bowl this year.
Yeah. I think what it is like you said, because those are the law of averages that we all have to play. And so that's why it makes a lot of sense. Because yes, like you said, the 2 things that you have to if you're going to make this wager is Dak's health, which you can't control. But the one thing that nobody knows is, like you said, if for some reason Schottenheimer is a complete disaster, then that could be the thing that was there right in front of our eyes. That was a warning. But again, I think the law of averages tell you that you shouldn't worry about that, like you said, because you have to go all the way back. I'm just looking at it right here. You have to go all the way back to let's see. They had just one. They had the 4-win season in 2015.
Even if an important year for the Cowboys was 2006. That was the year that Tony Romo took over as starter halfway through. And so since then, since they've had a franchise quarterback, which is now almost 20 years worth of data, they have bottomed out 3 times. In 2010, when Tony Romo broke his collarbone, and they were a disaster, and that
6-win team. Yep.
That led to them firing Wade Phillips midway through, and then Jason Garrett got the job. 2015, in which Tony Romo broke his collarbone again in week 2, and they went 4-12, and were still in the thick of the division because it was so bad, obviously, throughout the entire course. And
that was Matt Castle, by the way.
Well, Matt Castle and Brandon Whedon, it was
Okay.
and Kellen Moore was a disaster. That was 2015. 2020, when Dak Prescott broke his ankle, and again, still won 6 games, still were kind of in the mix. And then last year, when Dak Prescott got hurt. So you're talking about 4 years across effectively 20 that they have been beneath 8 wins. Again, not a brag, not a flex. And they all involved the franchise quarterback suffering a season-ending injury in the first half of the season, which is the case for multiple teams.
So what do you think about that, Jim?
He's right. I mean, this is a team that the big question mark is the head coach. And I don't know how you can get too excited about the head coach and absolutely nothing about him at this level. And staying healthy, like I said, I think the offense can be prolific. I'm more worried about the defense. I'd like to hear more about the defense.
Yeah. We did talk about the defense, and I can actually get his point of view on that. Like you said, by the way, as I bring that up, here are the numbers. So you've got the 7.5, 8.5, 9.5 numbers. I mean, even the 9.5 at 2-1 isn't all that crazy.
Well, I would, honestly, because of what I just said, I would easily bet them over 7.5, 8.5, and 9.5. You just split your bets up a little bit.
And how would you do that economically?
Well, let's say you're going to bet $1,000.
Okay.
Let's say I'm gonna lay the 160 for half the money, because that's a given. Unless Dak goes down early, they're going to win 8 games. Then I take the balance of the money and go over 8.5 and 9.5 and just split it, because you could easily get to 10 wins. And you don't know what's going to happen with the other teams in your division. The Giants may not win a game against, so they could beat the Giants twice.
That's true.
If the Eagles have offensive line problems, or gets hurt, and then if a regression from Daniel, I mean, you could be sitting there with a chance to win this division. And,
absolutely.
Anything
can happen. That's why no team has won the division twice.
It's not always your team that makes what happens falls apart for you. Like, I think the Washington Commanders got an awful lot of juice out of being able to beat up on the Lions last year, when the Lions defense was completely shattered the last 4 games of the year.
Sure. And they also have a very tough schedule, Washington.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's see what he had to say about the defense. How do you see that being different? What are the differences that you think we're going to have to keep an eye on? And by the way, keep in mind what I was leading them up to this question is the Cowboys obviously have a new defensive coordinator. That is Matt Eberflus, the former head coach of the Chicago Bears training camp.
I know we've talked about this before, but Matt Eberflus has sort of been the defensive coordinator of the Cowboys before. They had 2 different coaches who were, kind of holding that title when Rod Marinelli officially held the title. Matt Eberflus was the first, and then Chris Richard was the second, when Eberflus left for the actual title with Indianapolis under Josh McDaniels and that whole thing, and Frank Reich. And so we've learned that we can set our watch by a great linebacker play happening under his watch, which is interesting given the DeMarvion Overshown injury. And it's also interesting, when Dan Quinn took over, he brought like 4 Falcons with him, that had played for him in Atlanta. The only player to follow Eberflus from Chicago was Jack Sanborn, who is a linebacker, just, again, given his area of expertise. He played linebacker, for anyone who's unaware, at Temple and, whatnot. It is kind of the position he thrives with. I don't know that we're going to see anything exotically different. I don't know that, and I don't know that anybody wants to, just because everything's been so successful. The cornerstone elements of the defense are already kind of set in place. You got Micah Parsons. They were able to get a long-term deal done with Osa Odighizuwa. Dante Fowler is back after a year away with Dan Quinn in Washington. Trayvon Diggs, when present, is a cornerstone. Deron Bland, a cornerstone. This is, for a long time, the Cowboys treated safety the way they do contract extensions for superstar players, and they just had nobodies back there. But they've gotten tried and true legitimate safety play year after year, and Dan Quinn was a big reason for that. But Donovan Wilson and Malik Hooker are both, kind of par for the course dudes in that sense. So I think everything is going to be fairly, obvious along the defensive side of the ball. It's just a matter of who emerges. This Kyrie Elam turn into the player who he was at Gainesville that Buffalo thought they were drafting first round, or is he the player the Bills traded away? Can Kenneth Murray refine that fountain of youth? Who everybody thought he was at Oklahoma when the Chargers drafted him. Like, there's all this stuff. These kind of questions. Does Savon Ravel play right away? There are some massive swings of the pendulum that can happen that can change this group dramatically.
Do you think that, because I know there are some people who believe that just by looking at the depth chart and knowing all the injuries and some of the concerns with the hit or miss secondary, that this is going to be a high scoring team this year? They're going to throw the ball a lot. Their defense is not really going to be able to stop people. They're going to get into a boatload of high-scoring games. They're going to be fun to watch, but that's basically the Dallas Cowboys in 2025. Do you believe that is overblown? Do you think the Cowboys have an opportunity to be a lot better on defense than some people think?
Yeah, I mean, they haven't been that group since Micah Parsons has been on the team. I know that we have assigned, rightfully so, a lot of that credit to Dan Quinn, but I mean, I would attribute it to some of these cornerstone players. Right now, some of them have come and gone. DeMarcus Lawrence is one of them. But I mean, I just can't envision a world where Micah Parsons is literally rushing the passer every single down to where, are they a guaranteed top 5 unit? No, like, I wouldn't go that far. But I just can't imagine them. The last year they were like this was Mike McCarthy's first year when Mike Nolan was the defensive coordinator, and they were just getting, gassed on the defensive side of the ball each and every single week. And it required the offensive output to try to go shot for shot. And the Cowboys, unfortunately, were not able to do that. And then Dak got hurt. But I think that ultimately they're going to be a solid team in an overall sense.
Okay. And linebacker, though, does look like it's one spot with the overshot. And the foundation really, as we talk more, Jim, is the pass rush. They really have a good pass rush. Not just Parsons. You mentioned Fowler. He's back. They've got the young kids they drafted who were both injured early last year that now return. They also have a second-round draft pick who I love, who I think is going to be a really good player. So that's the strength of their defense. The big question is in that secondary, because they do have a couple of guys who we mentioned, Diggs and Bland, and they can be kind of hit or miss with big plays and then give up big plays. But they also have that kid Revel, the rookie third-round draft pick, who's a little banged up right now, might start the season on PUP. But the scouts at our lads, and I agree with them, just love Revel. I think he could have been and should have been a first-round draft pick. So there is a lot more optimism if everything were to go right and they stay away from the injuries that killed them last year.
Well, when you look at the totals for games, I would say that you're going to see a lot of games with Dallas somewhere in the 46 to 50 range. Their offense is going to produce, and I think their defense is not going to be a top 5 or 6 defense in the league.
Even if they're 15, they'll still be in those battles you're talking about because their offense will be so good. The
question is, can they hold up against a good defensive team that can shut them down a little bit?
Yeah.
And, that they're not and right now you can't consider them a Super Bowl contender per se.
No, I don't think so.
But you can say that if the trees fall down in front of them, there could be a path for them to get to the playoffs and make some noise because of if Dak could play like he did 2 years ago with the 36 touchdowns that he had.
Oh yeah,
it could be a very difficult team to beat. Yeah.
It is funny how people. It doesn't take long for people to forget the successes or failures of teams after 1 year. And that's a prime example. How they can win 12 games for 3 straight years, have one year where you only win 7, and then everybody's just, this Cowboys lost it.
Well, there's a lot of expectations and have been for around Dallas for a long time. American team, the most expensive franchise. But it's been 27 years since they've ever done anything at the highest level. So yeah, I mean, there's people that weren't even born than when the last time this team did anything.
Early 90s. Yep.
And, we know that Jerry is an interfering guy, and he's the only owner that talks about the game on television and radio every week. I mean, he's the only one that does that. So, their reputation is because Jerry's there, they can't win. And maybe that's the truth. And now they get rid of McCarthy and they have a new head coach that's not been there.
Nope.
So you got a lot of questions surrounding this club. What I do know is that with the offensive punch they have, they're going to put up points. That's my best guess here. Yeah. They're going to put up a lot of points. The question will be, can they hold up on the other end?
Well, as far as some more of our long shots, our next team has been on this nice little division streak now for several years, and it looks like they're probably set to win another division title if everybody's healthy again. The question is, could they take that next step? I have gone with the Buccaneers now the last couple of years to win the division ever since Baker Mayfield stepped foot on that franchise floor, because I just really liked what I saw out of Mayfield with McVay turning him into, kind of steering him in the right direction, the coaching staff there, then having that part of that coaching staff follow him to Tampa and helping him at coordinator. One of their coaches is now a head coach. The second offensive coordinator is now a head coach. So yes, that's the one thing that might be a little tricky. You're now in your third offensive coordinator during this time. But that is also part of the expectations now that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have on whether or not, winning a division, we've done that before, but can they do more than that? They sit here at 28-1 as a Super Bowl team, which means that the conference number will be cut in half. So they're at 13-1 just to get to the Super Bowl. And by the way, Baker Mayfield is 25-1 as MVP. What do you think about the Bucks? Because I know you really like them, and they're one of your long shot teams this year.
Well, I if anybody's followed anything I've said on these pods for the last couple of months, I think Baker is a superstar. He's found the place to be. I mean, obviously Cleveland is never the place to be. No. He was there. But the Saints are a mess. The Falcons are. Everybody thinks the Falcons. They're all talk about them every year. And then the Panthers, you got a quarterback that's very small. All the metrics around the player that size is negative, although he's number one draft choice, a lot of talent. The size is the big issue. And then, of course, now you got to blend it all together with the coaches and the other players. But basically, the Buccaneers are head and shoulders above the rest of the teams in this division. And if they can hold up and stay healthy, now losing their offensive line Wurs already is not making me happy, because that I made predictions about them before he got hurt. Now he's out for a while, and I hope it's not too long, and I hope they can replace him in the meantime. But I like the Buccaneers. I like them to win the division. I like them. I have a real good feel they could easily win the conference, which puts them in the Super Bowl. And I'm not afraid to say that. I think I'm a big fan of Baker. He's a tough guy. He'll play hurt. The players love that, because you don't have to put a skirt on you don't have to put a dress on this guy. He's a tough guy. He goes out there on one leg and he'll fight. And the players like that. They respect that. And I understand that. So I like the Buccaneers a lot. I think they have a good chance not only to win the division, but to win the NFC conference.
Yeah, he's definitely going. Wirfs is definitely going to miss the first 4 games based on the injury designation. So the question is going to be, when exactly will he return? I think we'll find out, by the way, before the season begins, because if they don't make any moves as far as, looking at some veteran that might be overpriced somewhere and some team gives up on him, They're going to go cheaper, and there's a tackle out there, and Tampa Bay can go out and get him. Or more than likely, they'd have to make a deal. Maybe there's a free agent out there that they can bring in and have him start for a few games, or as a backup remedy, just in case their Heck, I believe, is now going to move in the backup to the starter's role. So you want to make sure that you have a little bit more depth, just in case something happens to Heck. You can't be in a situation where you're trying to win a Super Bowl with a third or fourth string left tackle.
Well, we saw what happened with the Chiefs against Tampa when they lost to Brady and company, when the offensive line was in shambles. We saw what happened to them last year when their offensive line was in shambles against the Eagles. You can't win at a high level without a good offensive line.
Yep.
I mean, that's
and now they have the chance. It's early enough that they have the opportunity to fix it partly, as long as Wirfs especially is only out for 4 to 6 games. That's okay.
And is their backup that they have right now good enough to fill in for that period of time, or do they have to go out and get somebody?
Yeah, he's been around long enough that he can fill in for 4 to 6 games. So yeah, I wouldn't really want to think that we can win a World's Championship with Heck as my starting left tackle. No, I think that would be, especially if he'd have to try to go all 17 games and all that other stuff. So I'd be a lot more worried. But the left tackle spot, the offensive line is very difficult to address because there's not a lot of talent depth-wise in the NFL. Everybody looks for offensive linemen, especially tackles. But that's why I said we'll see. If there's no movement, that's a positive sign that they feel Wirfs will be back. Their over/under is 9.5 minus 105. That seems really low.
I like this team to win 12, 13 games, honestly.
And that's plus 250 on the over 11.5.
I like this team a lot. I think they're, when you look at the offensive punch that they have, they've got wide receivers coming up the gigi, and their defense is tough. They're used to winning. They got a culture. They believe in themselves. They got a good leader. The coach is good. The quarterback's good. You got everything going. And I do not think – now, they open up at Atlanta. That's a tough opener. Anybody can lose on the road. Yes, that's possible. But I'm not that high on Atlanta, the Saints, or the Panthers to worry about it. I think they win the division handily and get in the playoffs.
All right. So let's now take a look at some teams that you think, if there was an injury here or there with a key player, quarterback specifically, or whatever, there just could be a chink in the armor from the heavy favorite division winner. Your top runner-ups. So let's start first of all in the AFC West. Of course, the Kansas City Chiefs, the Super Bowl loser. We know all about that. And they didn't fall off the cliff when they lost their last Super Bowl, but that's because they've got Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. And we don't expect them to fall off the cliff either. But if something were to happen and there was a team that could actually somehow figure out a way to pass up the Chiefs, who have won I don't know how many division titles in a row, you like the Denver Broncos sitting here at 3-1.
I like the Denver Broncos a lot. I like the head coach. I believe that they found a gem with their quarterback. Their defense is extremely good. They're a lot more solid that in a lot of departments than the Chargers, and a lot of people give the Chargers equal credit. I don't. You cannot discount the Chiefs. I mean, this is a team that's they just keep winning. They got everything going, and nobody talks about it, but they got maybe the best defensive coordinator in the business, if not the best, the second best in Spags. And they know how to play football on the defensive side of the ball. They're good. Now, can they have problems at the end of the season with injuries? And that happens. It happens with everybody. But this is a good football team, and you can't discount them. But I like the Broncos to win it. I like the Chiefs second, Chargers third, and the Raiders fourth.
So Denver here also, speaking of 11.5, they're 11.5 over plus 250. So I also think that's not a bad idea. And we've got the 3-1 division mark there. Let's see, do we have them? 28-1 is their number to win the Super Bowl. So they're also just like Tampa Bay at 28-1, 13-1 to win the AFC.
And we could be talking about the Super Bowl Broncos against the Bucks. It could be.
Yes, and we would like to get that number wherever we can so we can put money on it.
Amen to that.
Yes.
Now, got to remember, too, this division has unbelievable talent at head coach. This is unbelievable.
All 4 teams. Yes.
All 4 teams have fantastic head coaches.
Yeah, we haven't seen a division with this much coaching talent in quite a while.
No, never.
Okay, everybody believes that Houston is going to win the South, and they probably will. Even though I am surprised that it's even. I kind of felt that they would be like a -170 or something, or even -200. I'm a little bit. I actually think that's a good number. But if something were to happen, quarterback, something, because anything is possible, then you actually like the Colts as a team that might be able to make a surprise run at the AFC South title, which, by the way, could put Daniel Jones in the running for comeback player of the year, which he is 20-1.
Very likely. I mean, they have some things to get over there. Remember, they just unfortunately lost their owner. They're going to come into the season with some motivation surrounding that, because he passed away just a couple months ago. So that can be a motivating factor. The Texans are not so good that you can just say, hey, they're going to win this. No, they're not. They're good, and they're better than the other teams on paper. The Jags and the Titans, I do not have that much faith in, even though the Titans or the Jags have a better price to make it than the Colts. I think the Colts are a more solid team. If they stick to the power running game and that they should have done a year ago, and of course they keep losing the quarterback. He keeps getting hurt. They need to solidify that. But if they stick with the running game and play good defense, I think they're the second best team in this division.
Well, that's the trick is really, I think it's going to be maybe even, not only do they need, say, Daniel Jones, if he does start, to have a big year, but they also have to, more importantly, I think they've got to figure out a way to play better defense, because that defense last year was pretty bad. And taking a look here at their defensive unit, they added 4 draft picks on defense. They added a couple of key players in free agency. They have a first-round draft from last year. They're hoping to take a big step. They have one of the better interior guys in Buckner. So there's talent there, no question. There is talent there, but they need a significant bump. I mean, that defense was terrible.
Well, we haven't talked about it, but let's look at the coaching for the 4 teams in this division. I like the coach for Houston. I really do. I'm kind of surprised they fell off on the defensive side of the ball like they did. But he's got a lot of talent. I like that head coach.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. That's why I think this number is not bad. That's why I think the only way Houston doesn't win the division is something happens to CJ Stroud. Now, it's a big difference, though, if we want to say Houston, can they be a Super Bowl contender? And we've talked about this before. Well, I don't think they got the offensive line to be a Super Bowl contender.
No, I think that's part of the problem Stroud had, and he also lost some wide receivers too. And
then they drafted some guys this year, so that's the hope, is that they can replenish some of those injured guys with some of these new kids that are going to step up and hopefully take over. So yeah,
this is not a division with top talent, and this is a marginal division with a marginal leader. With Houston has to prove themselves to a lot of people to say they're up there with somebody like the Bills, for example, or they're not at that level.
And then the last one is actually I'm actually surprised that you did this, Jim, but I'm honored because look, we talked about this the other day when we went over the AFC East. I think that the odds on the Jets are absolutely ridiculous. Not these odds for the division because the Bills are the Bills, but the win total odds, the fact that they are considered like one of the bottom 4 teams, and I'm saying just to compare where they are to win the Super Bowl. How they've got numbers like the Giants and the Saints pretty much. I mean, are you kidding me? I mean, who's what? I mean, no way. So this is a team that now finally has got coaching, which I preached to no end last year was their major issue. Now that is no longer an issue. So now they've got coaching. And if they can stay healthy like any team, because they also had injuries last year, they had injuries the year before with Aaron Rodgers, so they've got to stay healthy. And if they can do that, they've got enough talent to be a team that's going to be there all the way through the end, that's going to be fighting for a wild card spot. But that means that if anything were to happen to Josh Allen, because that's the only way the Bills don't even win this division, is if Josh Allen goes down and he's out and he's not coming back until 2026, then you think that the Jets would be the team to keep an eye on. I 18-1, by the way.
I believe, yeah, it's ridiculous. I mean,
the Patriots are 5-1. What are you kidding me?
Patriots are getting overhyped because of Vrabel, and he's been around a long time, and the Dolphins are a mess. If they have problems with the owner, the head coach is a mess. I mean, that's a team that has failed over and over again. I do not think the head coach will be there by the end of the year. He may not even make it halfway through the year. The Patriots, I think, are going to be pretty good. They're going to improve. Vrabel's a good coach. But I like the way Glenn is coming to the Jets. I like what they're doing there. I think their defense is going to be very strong. This is a surprise team. I think that they can come second in this division. I'm not going to predict them to beat the Bills, for God's sake. No. But I do think they can come second in this division and possibly make the playoffs. Possibly. Yeah, it's an outside shot.
I want those odds. I want to get those second place odds.
That's right. The price is a given. You have to take it.
Yeah, because whatever it is, it's going to be pretty good compared to the Patriots and Dolphins. So, if I can get that, I want it. All right, so there you go. Those are some long shots that you want to keep an eye on. Don't forget, it's only, of course, July 18th. So we are not going to make our final updated predictions for over another month, but it's still early enough where this is a good opportunity to try to take advantage of some of these odds before they change, as we said at the open. Because there are going to be some teams that are going to have really good training camps or really good preseasons. And then a lot of the things we're talking about for some of those teams will get caught up by the rest of the nation or by a lot of people who want to place money on these teams. And so hopefully we'll give you a head start. And I think we've done a good job of that. But now it's on to training camps. They're already starting, Jim. And now we're getting serious as far as the beginning of the NFL season. So can't wait. And as a matter of fact, we just posted a video that you cannot see here on YouTube until I think Monday, but you can see it on our Patreon. So it's available right now on our Patreon. Jim and Andy looked at the 18 teams that they felt were not going to make the playoffs, and you can explain, Jim.
Well, yeah, I mean, the 14 teams are going to make it, 7 each conference. And then you have to pick 18 that are not going to make it. And some of them are really borderline. Like we just talked about the Jets. Yeah, they could, and maybe they won't. That's it. But we're talking about are you going to have a good year or a bad year? Making the playoffs isn't always the barometer that you should measure them by, because it's about improvement and taking one step at a time. But Andy and I went through. It was kind of fun to do it, to try to eliminate 18 teams from the 832. It's a little confusing because you're kind of looking at, say, okay, this tree is going to fall and that will open and this team will get in there. And, that's you're kind of looking around the corner all the time. But I'm going to give you one right now, though. One extra one we'll talk about.
Okay.
When you look at the AFC North, We know the Ravens are the best team. We know Joe Burrow might be very likely the best quarterback in football, and their offense is going to be amazing. Their defense last year was absolutely horrendous, and I don't know that they did anything to help it. I'm not sure that they're going to show up. There's one team in this division that never loses. They always have a winning record. They have a good coach. They're a little conservative on the offensive side, but they've got a guy there, and I am not a big fan of his personality, but I'm a big fan of his talent. Aaron Rodgers is one of the best quarterbacks that's ever played this game. He is dangerous. And if they play the defense that Tomlin knows how to play, and he sets them up for game time and get them ready for games, and if Rodgers really comes with this is my last year, this is my legacy, they are very dangerous to win the second team in this division, finish that way, especially if the Bengals defense can't hold up, because we know the head coach and the defense for Pittsburgh is superior to the Bengals.
Well, I actually think that they're a decent play just to win the division at 5-1. I mean, that's a big number for a team. You're getting double the money for the Bengals. You just talked about their defense. The Pittsburgh Steelers were a better team than the Bengals last year, and they're getting twice as much, Pittsburgh is. And I don't see any way that in this – look, Cleveland is Cleveland, but they'll even be at least more competitive because they can't be any worse. But with Cincinnati and Pittsburgh and Baltimore, I'm sorry, but I think this is going to be a 3-team race all the way to the end. I don't think this is going to be where Baltimore is going to have a 3-game lead on the Bengals and Pittsburgh. No, I don't see that happening. I think the Bengals are going to be much better. Like you said, the Steelers are always in contention. So that's why if there's a little slip up, if Jackson misses a couple of games and they lose a couple of games, that's all it takes sometimes in a tight division to steal a division. And at 5-1, I don't think it's a bad play.
I agree. I mean, when I look at things, I look at, okay, who's my head coach? What's my defense look like? What does my offensive look like? Bengals have a better defense, better offense than anybody in this division. The Browns, forget about them. They're a mess. The Ravens, roster-wise, from top to bottom, coaching, everything is superior if you take the entire picture. But the Steelers have a good defense and a good coach, and they got a quarterback there that he knows how to play and he knows how to win. And that is a big addition. I think the Steelers should be the second choice in this division. Yes, and with the right things happening, they could end up winning the division, but I'm not going to say that. I'm not saying that. I'm not predicting that.
Well, yeah, that's the thing, is that they're definitely, because of the coaching and because of the quarterback and because of just their winning franchise attitude every year, that they're a nice pick. I mean, they're not just and who knows, they don't even have to win the division to be a Super Bowl contender. So yeah, I think there's a lot to like about the Steelers as a potential sleeper. And they're just going to have to keep Aaron healthy. That's for sure. But I think the good thing is that they have not had good quarterback play since Roethlisberger. And so Rodgers will be better than what they've had. And that will be a little jolt. That'll be a jolt.
Easily better. If he's in the right mental state, the headspace, that's with him. That's the whole thing with him. His headspace. If he's really there, and he gets along with the coaches and he likes what's going on, he can be very dangerous for 1 year. He really can. He's that talented.
Yeah, I see the same thing happened again where, people were wondering, why isn't he? Look, everybody knew he was going to be signed by the Steelers. But people are like, well, matter of fact, Alex Kozora, who does a great job as our analyst with the Pittsburgh Steelers, talked about that. Said, I don't know. I just think that Aaron Rodgers really needs to get there. This is the perfect time, OTAs, to develop that camaraderie. You should be there. We all know he's going to sign. I think that's a bad look if he doesn't get there. And then we had to wait, per Aaron Rodgers, social life, the way he likes to keep things private, that he got married. So it's like, well, okay, yeah, we understand now. But for a month, people were just throwing stuff out about it's typical Aaron Rodgers. He's not reporting to OTAs this, and he's more important. He wants to go on McAfee's show. That's more important to him than to show up at OTAs. And it turns out he got married. Okay,
he's a different kind of guy. I mean, he's in a different headspace than most of the people, and the talent wise, nobody throws the ball better. Nobody knows football better. He really is that good, but he's in a totally different headspace.
Yep. And all you have to do is get on that. Every NFL team that makes that run to the Super Bowl or the playoffs, they all get that, that camaraderie, that thing that just clicks. And if they can get that, it may not be week 4, week 8, but maybe it's week 12, and they just click, they can be very dangerous. So we'll definitely keep an eye on the Steelers. Again, it's only July 18th, but we've got a lot of football to come here on Proline TV. So please subscribe to the channel. Don't forget about that. And again, as we mentioned with the Patreon, there are going to be videos just like that will be available early to you Patreon users. So we have a link in the description of how you can sign up to our Patreon. And then there also will be videos that we will post on our Patreon that you will not be able to get at all on our YouTube channel. Matter of fact, there's one of them right now going on because Jim has talked and will continue to talk about 32 teams in the NFL. He has these shorts he puts together. He gives a little, tidbit here and there about what he thinks about each team over less than 3 minutes. And there's one team right now that he talked about that's right now loaded up on our Patreon that will not be available on YouTube. So find out, go to Patreon, check it out, sign up. And if you don't like it and you just want to just move on after a month, you just move on after a month. That's it. We don't harass you, nothing like that. It's how much is it? A $5 investment, I believe it is, which is not very expensive. You get really great content. And anyway, the thing that we're going to be also promoting real soon, Jim, is the thing that I'm really excited about is that you get the opportunity to enter the contest by actually being a member of the tier. And the contest I'm talking about is the Wise Guy Beat the Pros contest, where you get to go head to head with Jim Feist and Mark Lawrence and a whole bunch of top handicappers in the industry. And that's a lot of fun. So, all right, Jim, I'll let you go. I know you got to go hit the restaurant scene in Vegas. So I appreciate your time as always.
Thank you, buddy. Gotta go.
All right. See you.